The Cosmic Shake is upon us. Not only did we get a release date for January 31st across all platforms, and upon pre-ordering, you'll get a free DLC costume pack, more on that a bit later, but we've also got a few new trailers and screenshots in the past month or so. So you guys should know the drill by now. Once something comes up for a SpongeBob game, I got to make a video on it, even though Crash Team Rumble was announced shortly afterward. Trust me, I'm going to do a video on that eventually, don't you worry. But without further ado, let's dive into the new SpongeBob stuff. We'll start on November 16th with the release of the Languages Are Fun trailer. As expected from such a title, this trailer showcases the various languages that the game will support at launch, featuring all the original voice actors reprising their roles. I assume this also applies to the international versions as well. Now this, I would assume, is the game's intro cutscene where things start going wrong, when SpongeBob and Patrick start wishing things for pretty much everyone in town, only to not have read the warning on the bottle that says, "Property of King Neptune, not for use by mortals, use sparingly and with caution." Realizing they screwed up, everyone in Bikini Bottom is sucked or even zapped into the Wish Worlds, complete with the most iconic piece of music from the Clams episode.
Oh no!
Combined with the animation being especially lively compared to that of Rehydrated's, these cutscenes do legit feel like a CGI episode of the show, and I commend the team for doing what no other SpongeBob game has done before. Heck, I'm surprised that no SpongeBob game has included time cards before Cosmic Shake. How was this not a thing 20 years ago? You okay there, Larry? Oh hey, there's Pearl. Moving on to the release date trailer, we see another piece of, I guess, the intro cutscene taking place just outside Glove World. The first time, I believe, the location has appeared in the games. I'm not counting Nick Brawl, that's not even a standalone SpongeBob game. It shows SpongeBob and Patrick first meeting Madame Cassandra, a new character made for this game with two different colored eyes. She calls herself a purveyor of long-lost treasures from the Seven Seas for those on a budget, selling them the bottle of magic bubble soap, only for it to be a vial of mermaid's tears. The Steam description from when the game was first announced mentioned Cassandra has her own devious plan. So if I had to make a guess, this vial was stolen from Neptune, she sold it to SpongeBob and Patrick, knowing they'll mess things up, offers a way to fix things in a later cutscene, but I can already see where this is going. Keep in mind, this is SpongeBob we're talking about, so don't go expecting some sort of super epic twist that you'll never see coming, okay? Good. But since it's implied Cassandra is the main villain here, we have to wonder as to Plankton's whereabouts. Given he's the main villain of the show, and practically every SpongeBob game in existence, he's the one character we haven't seen anywhere since that announcement trailer. So what's he been up to, I wonder? Outside of the story aspects, the release date trailer showed off a bunch of new gameplay footage and mechanics, which brings us to the analysis portion of the video. First, we've got what appears to be the medieval sulfur fields. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't exactly seen these trees anywhere in the series before, so I'm just making an educated guess based on SpongeBob's jester costume, which only seems to pop up in the trailer's medieval levels, and it's a reference to Squidly from the Dunces and Dragons episode. Over to the right here, the Thunder and Stone Tikis make their return from Rehydrated. Slingshotting is a new mechanic for this game, allowing you to launch SpongeBob to new areas. When I first seen this in one of the new screenshots from Steam, before this trailer even released, my mind instantly went to Angry Birds. Wait a second, but really though, since Patrick isn't a playable character in this game, this to me kinda replaces those teeter-totters only Patrick could use in BFBB. The same for the fishhook swing, filling in for Sandy not being playable. Now let's comment on that real quick. You'll notice SpongeBob has to get in close to the hook before actually starting a swing. This happened for Sandy in Rehydrated, but it was never in the original BFBB, so it came off as being not as smooth in Rehydrated as a result. So I hope they can tweak it a bit before release. The next location we see is Glove World, which I believe to be the 7th and final Wish World. Since this is where the story likely starts, it seems fitting to have the story end here. These K's in the sky could stand for Krusty Krab. Not too sure, I don't know what else it would stand for. Next up is another look at the medieval Sulphur Fields, and while this location appears in the Dunces and Dragons episode, there was never a hedge maze seen in that episode. But I kinda like it, especially with those arches, getting some major Spyro vibes from them. Right afterward, we get a glimpse of the game's hub world. Once again, it's Bikini Bottom, because of course it is. Now this is something that a lot of people were curious about, and were kinda worried it would be a more linear form of progression like the SpongeBob movie game, which had no hub worlds whatsoever. Well, that's simply not the case here. A few things we can notice right off the bat is another slingshot from before, a checkpoint marker because unlike Rehydrated, enemies do exist in the main hub world, as seen in a different portion of the trailer with another checkpoint marker nearby. I feel like some of these Halloween decorations are Easter eggs of some kind, but I'm unable to properly identify them if they are. The area is covered in bubbles from the nearby portals, although Squidward's house seems to have gotten the worst of it. It's not looking good, so I hope it's nothing serious. Judging by the items right next to these portals, I'd say this one on the left leads to Pirate Goo Lagoon with the barrels, umbrella, and such. This one on the right looks to be the one for Halloween Rock Bottom with the accompanying jack-o'-lanterns. At a different point in the trailer, we can see the other side of this area of the hub world featuring the Squid Bob costume, a portal to Glove World. Not sure what this portal leads to. My guess it's prehistoric kelp forest? The trees and this structure in the background are the only things I got to work with here. Under this portal is a ramp with a red arrow on it, and a boatmobile nearby. Given SpongeBob is capable of riding Mystery the Seahorse, and the fact he doesn't have a license yet, this is a recipe for a beautiful disaster. This section of the hub world features dehydrated SpongeBob, Sandy's Tree Dome, and Shady Shoals in the same layout as Rehydrated. To the right, there's a manure truck from Sandy's Dream, also from Rehydrated. To the bottom left, there's an NPC. I assume this is the same guy from the initial gameplay trailer, just simply going by the hat here. On the other side of this area, there's yet another portal for Karate Downtown Bikini Bottom. The buildings around the portal seem to indicate that. To access these portals, Cassandra says to find the portal that suits your costume, so I'd assume costumes are a form of progression for this game. In other words, if you don't have the Western SpongeBob outfit, you cannot access Western Jellyfish Fields. But after unlocking said level, you can switch back and forth whenever you want. Example being the Glove World costume in Prehistoric Kelp Forest, and yes, I gotta note the sea bears. They look hungry.
I'm running for my life!
One final look at the hub world before moving on to the rest of the trailer. This one focuses on the Krusty Krab, and the area seems to indicate the portal to Western Jellyfish Fields is nearby. SpongeBob's in his Krusty Krab uniform, Mr. Krabs is back there as tumbleweeds go by. I guess business is pretty slow with all these portals going on, eh? NPCs from Rehydrated make a return, along with new ones directly from the show. There's a quick glimpse of Karate Downtown. This section takes place behind the first nautical bank. There's an NPC stuck in the dirt and another one staring at a picture on the wall. Again, if this picture is a reference to a newer episode, then I'm completely unaware of what it is. But what I was surprised to see was that SpongeBob SquarePants, the final boss from BFBB Rehydrated, is part of the costume pack included free with every pre-order, alongside Dehydrated SpongeBob, Mermaid Man SpongeBob, Squid Bob, Prehistoric SpongeBob, SpongeBob's band uniform from Band Geeks, and a new costume based around the Cosmic Jelly enemies. But SquarePants is easily my favorite of the bunch, solely due to the nostalgia I have for the original and rehydrated versions of BFBB, but also due to how creepy he still looks from Rehydrated. Also, he's one of the few costumes with no legs, which does stay true to the actual boss. Another quick glimpse of Glove World, the Ferris wheel in particular, and SpongeGuard jumping across some carnivorous plants, followed by SpongeBob and Patrick walking into a saloon in typical Western style. There's a wanted poster of Mr. Krabs right here, we'll come back to this. SpongeBob swinging through a castle's interior, followed by tongue sliding in Halloween Rock Bottom. We might be looking at two slightly different builds here, since it seems they removed the speed effect around the screen, which I see as an improvement over the last trailer, only to have it in the next section. Oh my gosh, it's Rainbow Road. I don't know, but I personally prefer it if they toned it down to where it's not as invasive. Kinda like Ratchet & Clank 2016, where it's barely visible during the hoverboard sections. Anyways, these flaming rings introduces a new ability I would like to call air surfing. This is yet another mechanic that was teased in the initial announcement trailer, alongside mystery and rock rolling. Other than it being used to traverse long distances, provided you stay inside the rings and pick up more bubble boards along the way, this looks to be some sort of color-based puzzle in the medieval level, and at the end of the trailer, we get to see some of SpongeBob's idle animations and various items falling through portals, including the pie from the Dying for Pie episode. Also a piece of dialogue for Mr. Krabs, further making it clear that they got all the original voice actors back for their respective roles, including the Flying Dutchman. Although, since Shady Shoals appears in the game, we have to wonder who will voice Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy if they are to appear, since both of their original VAs have since passed away. Next up, we've got the boss trailer, which released in the past week, confirming that all the major bosses in the game are SpongeBob's friends, and probably a mini-boss or two. Let's start with Sandy. Oh, why am I getting toxic waste flashbacks from this? From what I can tell in the trailer, Sandy's moveset revolves around this wooden hamster wheel, which eventually gets spikes. Now, if bosses in the game are going by a free phase system like Rehydrated, then Sandy by herself would be Phase 1, the standard wheel for Phase 2, and the spiked wheel for Phase 3. The goal for these wheel stages is to cause the wheel to crash, and then trees pop out of the ground for whatever reason. Mr. Krabs is the boss of Western Jellyfish Fields, in a different costume from what we've seen in the Gamescom footage, which was most likely a disguise, so nobody would recognize him from the aforementioned wanted posters. Mystery's going to be needed to catch up to the train in order to get on board, while avoiding the various hazards Mr. Krabs throws your way. And Sandy's the one who puts the handcuffs on him, so I assume this one takes place after downtown Bikini Bottom. Out of all the bosses in this trailer, I think I'm looking forward to this one the most, solely because train levels, no matter what game you put them in, always seems to be some of the best parts of the entire game, simply because they're unique. There's another glimpse of Gary's boss, which we seen during the THQ showcase, Not much to say here, cause it looks like breaking the candy machines are still the primary goal here. Although there is a cutscene for King Gary in the hub world, but I'm not sure if it takes place before or after Halloween Rock Bottom. Cosmic Shake might be Pearl's first appearance in a 3D SpongeBob game, but she's also the boss for the prehistoric kelp forest level. Since Pearl is known for crying a lot in the show, that's one of her attacks, as well as sending out bursts of fire and lava from the platform below. Now I think this one might be a mini-boss for the medieval level, given this is more of a background character in the show, but it appears we have to keep this cake safe from any blasts as we deliver it to tables. Also, Princess Pearl from the Dungeons and Dragons episode appears in the background. Moving on to some new screenshots posted to Steam, we've got one showing the exterior of the castle. Remember this guy? Yeah, that's him alright. The next two are for Halloween Rock Bottom. The first one shows SpongeBob in a Dracula costume with a statue of this guy who helped SpongeBob escape Rock Bottom at the end of his debut episode. In front of the statue, there appears to be a star inside a bubble. No idea what that's for, but I assume this is a main collectible for this level. The second one features SpongeBob in what's called the Haunted Mattress from the Scaredy Pants episode, which is where the Flying Dutchman made his grand debut. And speaking of the Dutchman, he's right there and still not see-through. The buildings have eyes on them, so that's a bit disturbing. Also, that statue from the first screenshot is right there at the top. And before I forget, if one of these tombstones does not say, "Here lies Squidward's hopes and dreams," that would be a massively missed opportunity, and I would be very upset. But aside from this last screenshot, which is just an updated version of the one we had before, we did get a tiny Halloween trailer for the game back in October, which I did not talk about because it's simply not much, but it does confirm that we'll be doing some sort of trick-or-treating in this level. And of course, we get one of those classic up-close shots from the show, as well as the return of SpongeBob missing the bus, and it's filled with so much more life than Rehydrated's version. So with all the trailer and screenshot analysis stuff out of the way, I've got a bit of an announcement to make concerning Cosmic Shake content ahead of the game's release next month. So here it goes. On January 17th, which is 2 weeks before launch, I will not be posting any more updates about the game beyond that point. I'm doing this for spoiler-based reasons. However, I do plan on reviewing the game, and if I'm fortunate, hopefully THQ Nordic can send a code my way. So THQ, if you're watching this, I would really appreciate it. Anyways guys, that's all the updates I've got for Cosmic Shake right now. But as always, what do you guys think about the game so far? Be sure to leave everything down in the comments section below. Also be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell for more Nickelodeon and SpongeBob game updates as they happen. So once again, I've been Blue Knight. Thank you guys so much for watching and for the constant support. Stay hydrated, happy holidays, and I'll see you guys back here next time.